Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I'm BA along with Jack Hirsch and James J. Trey Martin. Hope you gentlemen are having a wonderful morning here. Really kind of light in sports news, so we're gonna keep it even briefer than we just have the NBA draft and the NHL draft. So those things are working out. A lot of trades in the NHL, a big couple of trades in the NBA. Other than that, we got the World Cup, and that's going on as well. Other than that, let's head on to our first question for this morning, our debate question. Speaking of World Cup, will interest in soccer grow dramatically in America if the United States wins the World Cup? Go ahead there, Jack.
Temporarily, it will. Obviously, a wave will start forming. Everyone's going to get excited. And the best comparison would be the 1980 United States Olympic team. Such excitement about them winning the gold medal in the Olympics, all these celebrations, everyone is happy. But at the end of the day, no one considers this. What did it mean for hockey in the United States? Very little, very little. And when I say very little, I'm not counting kids who all of a sudden are taking up hockey. And it's very hard. And let's be honest, a sport like hockey is more for the families that can afford it. You don't just see kids walking around with, hockey sticks in their hands and pucks. It's kind of harder to navigate that particular sport. But when you look at the NHL, it didn't particularly help the NHL a great deal. I mean, it familiarized us with the guys who are on the team to an extent, and we're always going to revere that 1980 United States Olympic hockey team as one of our more favorite teams of all time, sport for sport. But it didn't do anything more for hockey than ESPN has done by an ABC telecasting the games. If ESPN and ABC couldn't do it, I mean, elevate hockey. Nothing could elevate hockey. And it would be the same with soccer. I mean, are we going to have standings, leagues? Can you guys ever visualize hockey being as popular as the NBA in America? To the average American sports fan. I'm not talking about the fan who has roots to Europe, okay? Who came with a soccer background, who's played soccer before. Okay, if I said the word hockey a little too much, I apologize. I just wanted to give an example to the 80 team. I may have said it one or two times inadvertently, not meaning to. But soccer itself, it's a great sport. If you want to argue that soccer is the greatest of all sports, I don't know. I don't know what's the greatest of all sports. It's all a personal preference. But I mean, and it's easy to play soccer in one sense. You just need a soccer ball, but then again, it's hard to play soccer because you got to find the field. You got to find the field, and when I go near where I live, jogging in the morning, there are a couple of soccer fields. I find the park, but guess what? I'm up early enough sometimes where the park it's locked. It's locked. You can't get onto the darn field. Sometimes you can. They leave it open maintenance. Sometimes you can't. And even in the middle of the day, they'll shut it down a lot of times and just open it up for particular games. I think it'll just create a temporary buzz. The United States, if they win the World Cup, there'll be a big celebration. There'll be a lot of smiles on all our faces. But guess what? 1 year, 2 years at most, it'll be more the same. We couldn't name more than a few soccer teams, and it'll be what it is. Unfortunately, this is an isolated incident. That's similar to fans in New York who aren't really big basketball fans. They'll be celebrating the Knicks, but guess what? They'll have no idea, the average Knicks fan, that the Knicks moved on from Mitchell Robinson. If they do in 6 months, they won't know. That'll slip under the radar. The next season will begin, and they won't even know about remember Mitchell Robinson's existence. I'm just giving an example here, but so the answer is no. Unfortunately, as massive as it would be if they did win the World Cup somehow.
So here Jack goes again, talking out of both sides of his neck. He's saying that on one hand, yes, it's temporarily going to be successful and might have a spark, but then it'll fade out. But then at the same time, you're talking about the Knicks and what they've done. I'm telling you right now, this is what sports is about, Jack. This is exactly what sports is about. I mean, that was one of my examples. The Knicks. Look at what happened. 53 years of a drought. Did you see all those people out there? I mean, even though you mentioned that some people were just out there that were latchers on, fine, you have that. But you brought so many different people out there. You were talking about cultures. We're talking about different melting. New York is probably the biggest melting pot of all. And you telling me that what sports what sports is to bring people from different cultures and different backgrounds together to celebrate one thing. And so you're telling me by the USA, if they're winning the World Cup in this, I mean, it's never happened, right? It'd be unprecedented. If they do this, it's going to send kids through the roof. We're talking about future people who want to play sports. We're talking about kids now. Kids will want to play soccer, especially, think about it, Jack. The NFL, we're talking about most of these guys in the NBA and MLB. These guys are at least 6'2", 6'1", right? These are big guys. Soccer, I think the average height is like 5'9" or something like that. The average height is 5'9". You're telling me that the average size guy has a chance to do something else different than getting his head beat in. Mind you, you have to have endurance and stamina in soccer. It's exhausting. But that being said, you have an opportunity to play a sport and make a lot of money. Some of these guys, I mean, what's the kid from Spain making like total of 15 million a year between his endorsements and his salary?
Lionel Messi.
Will have no. Lionel Messi, Lionel Messi is making a crap ton of money. But I'm talking about the 18-year-old kid for Spain.
Oh, right.
That's like the phenom.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of his name. It's hard to pronounce anyway. And that tells you how much I watch soccer. But that being said, I'm a numbers person. Look, I mean, I can agree with you on one hand. I mean, the USA, their first game against Paraguay, it was a total of 25 million, 18 English-speaking channels, 18 million views, and 15 against Australia, 15 million. And versus, let's just say the opening game for the USA NFL was between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys was 28.3. So that's still a drastic number, a drastic difference. We're talking about the NFL, the most popular sport in the U.S. But I'm saying if they were to win, it's gonna change some things. I'm just telling you, you got to look at the future of what's coming up and who's gonna play sports. It's children and parents who probably don't want their kids to play football. You know, something less physically, with collision and impact. You know, something we're talking about CTE, different things like that. Even though hitting your head on the ball probably.
You have that in soccer in England.
I know.
Certain laws at a certain age. Kids can't play soccer until a certain age.
Fair enough, because they're hitting their heads on the ball, right? Exactly. Yeah. But my answer is yes. I think it would if they would definitely win, but I don't think they're gonna win. But yeah, I think it would impact.
It would create a buzz for now. For the time being, it would be a big celebration. That don't misunderstand me, especially with the final game on American soil. Okay, it would be a major thing. But with that said, it's I just don't see it long range because soccer's been around for a while. It's been around for a while, and it's in all the schools. It's in all the high schools. They have soccer teams, and there's an opening for, kids to play that. It would be massive as a sports fan, but I just can't see it having any long-range effect per se.
Well, I think that if they won the World Cup, which is something they've never done, ever.
Never got past the quarterfinals.
But they've never won.
Yeah.
And that's the point. If they win, I think it would draw a lot of fanfare to this country, because right now, United States soccer is like, to the soccer world, the United States is just, you got a soccer team, that's cute. So if they win the World Cup, that proves they could beat the best in the world, and it'll spark a surge in soccer in this country, especially if this team wins. Winning is everything, and you're doing it on your home turf too. You got to think about that. All these teams that are playing, like Canada, Mexico, and the United States, they're all playing on their home turf. So if any of those teams were to win the World Cup, it would be, extraordinary for their nations. I think at one point it wouldn't overtake the National Football League. Ain't nothing doing that here in America, but it could move it to the, not permanently, but kind of move it up in the sports channel. I mean, it could go higher than Major League Baseball and the NBA, not for a permanent time, for a lengthy time, maybe a year and a half, like Jack said. It might calm down after that. But think about it. This is a team that has never won a World Cup. It's a major sports nation, and you haven't won a World Cup. You win a World Cup, man, you get respect from everybody else in the world as far as team is concerned. You get respect, and then everybody else will start emulating that. You will have people that on that soccer team that you're going to know by name, because they're going to be heroes, just like Super Bowl heroes. You know what I'm saying? They're just going to have that. They're going to have that echelon that everybody's going to be like, hey, great, awesome, and people will go. You got to remember, we had a surge in the hockey. I mean, surge in soccer in the beginning of the 2000s, I think it was, because we had another World Cup then. It was like 2006, I believe. That's when we kind of got up there to the national spotlight and getting into I think it was like a playoff type semi-regional, I think it was, that Jack said. So, I mean, you see that, and that raised the spike of soccer being played in this country. But like, if you added that they win a World Cup, it's going to go off the charts. It's kind of like, the Lions winning the Super Bowl.
I've kind of been indirectly down this road before. In the late 1970s, Pele, along with Muhammad Ali, the two most famous athletes in the world, came to play for the New York Cosmos. Pele was bigger in his time than even Lionel Messi is in this time, for example. And I remember going to the games, the first big game, 62,000 people going to the Meadowlands to see Pele and the New York Cosmos play. I went to a number of Cosmo games. The Cosmos were a major attraction for a couple of years. They had other great international players like, Georgie Chinaglia, Steve Hunt, Carlos Alberto. They got them from all the nations, and it was big. But there was also a big European audience who was going to follow soccer anyway to an extent. And it was a great show for like the 2-3 years those guys were there, but it wasn't built to last. I mean, our sport teams that we're following, there might be a lack of interest, for example, like James's New Orleans Pelicans. There might not be big interest in them right at the moment, but they're in hibernation. If they start winning, the city of New Orleans wakes up and the Pelicans become really big. The same thing in the Red Wings and Detroit Red Wings. When they start winning, people on hibernation. But people aren't in hibernation with soccer. They come, they go, and something big has to happen for them to temporarily come back. And this would be something big, the World Cup, where they would temporarily come back at least.
To be a boxing sports writer, you sure do a lot of jabbing on the other side, sir.
That's the most effective punch, the jab.
Yes, exactly. But I would say definitely don't count the New Orleans Saints fans. I don't think you know them very well.
New Orleans Pelicans.
No, I'm just going to tell you, Pelicans. These are the same fans that are the fans of the New Orleans Saints. Even though the Pelicans aren't winning, they are diehard fans of the Pelicans as well. So just to let you know that win, lose, or draw, they are there, and so they are a dedicated fan base. So I mean, if they start
Oh,
winning, it'll be the
I don't
same
mean they're
people
not
that were there.
dedicated. No. I don't question fan base's loyalty. I don't mean it that way. The energy level, okay? The energy level could disappear for a lot of years. I'm going through that now. I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan. There's no energy level within the franchise, okay? Maybe it's going to start up again this season because they got Julius Randle. That's a step in the right direction as far as creating, giving them at least a chance to be a playing team, perhaps, to contend to be a playing team. But fan bases, there's a lull going on sometimes in fan bases, and it's going to be in one of our questions coming up, in this show about a lull in the fan base for the time being. But soccer, I just don't think there's a lull. I don't think it's strong enough right now. But listen, if the United States wins the World Cup, it's going to be great. It'll be off the charts. It'll be celebratory. But you want to know something? Eventually it'll be like 2-3 days after New Year's Eve. You know what I mean? It dies down. It's over. There's not excitement for the holiday season anymore.
Oh, you talking about New York Knicks?
No, I'm talking about New Year's Eve. We're all excited, the new year, and then,
Gotcha.
2-3 days later, we're settled in and things are back to normal.
I was about to say the Knicks. I don't think that's going to die down for a whole year until next year's championship. That you're still going to be celebrating out there.
Fans are fickle, unfortunately. They're not as level-headed as you are.
But I also want to throw in there too. You got to understand the United States has high levels of sports competition along with soccer. Soccer here is not a high echelon sport here because we have football, we have NFL football, we have baseball, we have NBA, and yes, we have professional hockey too. So you got to look at that. A lot of countries don't have all that.
And also you have to tie in with what you're saying to expound upon what you're saying. A lot of these countries are their livelihood and their culture is tied into the sport as well. So, I mean, and unfortunately, some corruption with gangs and everything else are tied into it too.
And the fans are nuts anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next question here. There was a firing this week. Carlos Mendoza was fired, and he was made a scapegoat, though, being fired as a manager of the New York Mets. I'll go to you, James, on this one.
Okay.
You did this one right.
Yeah, I would think so. I think he was made to be a scapegoat. Only because he was there when they were almost the second coming of the Miracle Mets. I mean, in 2024, they were a few games away from the World Series, and of course, you have David Stearns changing the roster. He changed the roster drastically. I think he got rid of or let go of their longest tenured Met in Pete Alonso, or excuse me, not the longest tenured. That's Brandon Nimmo, but their home run leader in Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz. And of course, then you replace these guys. I mean, mind you, you bring in Juan Soto, and you're a big time player, and he's still big time there. He's just the only thing that's happening there because everybody else these other guys have negative WAR. Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien, Devin Williams, all of them have negative WAR, and a lot of things that weren't on the managing was on the mechanics, fundamentals. A lot of things that just wasn't happening, and then if you're losing games back to back like in this season, I mean, somebody's got to be blamed. But I think it's more so they're not going to fire the GM. They're going to fire the manager. Yeah, no, the owner's not going to fire himself. But I mean, so David Stearns is probably more to blame than the manager is, and I'm going to say so. And even the fans think so, that this is more. I mean, he got to take some blame, but he's still the manager. But to be the scapegoat, I think he is being the scapegoat in this situation. So I'm picking it as a scapegoat.
Yeah, I hate when coaches get fired during the season. I always, You like to see them play out the whole season, then wait to the end of the season, evaluate their performance, give them a chance to get out of the hole. But in the case of Carlos Mendoza, wow, if I were the owner, I would have had a hard time retaining him until the end of the season because you have to look at his history. He came in the first year with the Mets, did a superb job. They came 2 games from going to the World Series. They ultimately lost to the Dodgers in the playoffs, and that was the first of the Dodgers 2 World Series wins. The excellent job by Carlos Mendoza. Last season, they had a historic collapse and they fell out of the playoff, race last game of the season. Historic collapse. It was awful, awful. That in itself kind of makes you want to change the narrative, get the bad taste out of your mouth. It's kind of like a field goal kicker missing a chip shot at the end of the year, and and your team doesn't make the playoffs, so they lose a major playoff game. And then you start the next season and the team sees him around. Unless he has a great pedigree, you kind of want to get that bad taste out of your mouth in a sense. And then this season, the Mets have been flat as a doornail. Now, James mentioned some of the deals that they made. Edwin Diaz, one of the best relievers in baseball. Edwin Diaz elected to move on from the Mets as much as him because they had the offer there. They tried to retain Edwin Diaz. The Dodgers offer was only marginally better than the Mets offer, but the Mets didn't have a chance to counter that at the end because Diaz wanted to leave. And the guys the Yankees got, I mentioned the Yankees, that the Mets got from the Yankees, who were free agents, Devin Williams and Luke Weaver, they've been really good this year. They've been good. They haven't been the problem, okay? They're not. I'd rather have Edwin Diaz than both of them, but they've been one of the few bright spots for the Mets. As far as Pete Alonso goes, I agree. They shouldn't have moved on from Pete Alonso. I'll blame that on the owner, Steve Cohen. He should have overruled their people. But with that said, Carlos Mendoza has done a miserable job this year. The team has completely lacked spark. They haven't been aggressive on the field. I mean, there was dissension going on with Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto, but Lindor's been on the disabled list a good part of the year. The team's got no fight in them. It's a team that's always battling. It's as if they're resigned to defeat. The Mets are just playing these games and they're waiting to snap out of their season-long slump, and they haven't been snapping out of it.
But Jack, look what Philly did for with their manager when they got rid of their top. I mean, they turned things around. I mean, why wouldn't the Mets make this type of decision a little bit early on if they realize it?
It is early enough. They can still salvage the season. It's still early enough to salvage the season. They made it a little before the halfway point, and that's the wild card thing. And I didn't agree with the Phillies making the move. Don Mattingly has a checkered record as a manager. He hasn't been that successful of a manager. You could point out he had teams that went to the playoffs, but those were Dodger teams that could have been better with the other managers than Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly's never went to a World Series as a player, manager, coach. I mean, we love Don Mattingly, but let's be honest about it. He's been kind of so-so. And I just don't feel the Mets have had fight. I wouldn't have made the move only because I'm a big believer. Let managers, coaches play it out to the end of the year. Take your lumps. Then you evaluate them. I don't think managers or coaches should feel under pressure. Oh, if we lose a game or two more, I'm going to be gone. It's very hard to function in any job that way. But it got to the point we were talking about indifference with soccer, maybe. Met fans now, I mean, man, that is one of the dullest things, going like a Met game. If you tell someone in New York you got tickets for a Met game, they're not really excited. Maybe it's a night out, an afternoon out. I mean, they're not excited. And that's not how it was not that long ago. That's not how it was. Going to a Met game was a good thing. They had a good team, contending team. They are flat right now. I wasn't a big believer in chemistry in baseball, but the Mets are maybe proving me wrong. There's no chemistry in that team. I always thought just put everyone in their position. Baseball is the most selfish game of all. A batter gets up, his team could be 50 games out of first place. He wants to get a hit for his batting average. A pitcher wants his ERA to be low. Everyone's going to try to individually perform. They might not dive for a ball. They might not try to take the extra base. I get all that. But baseball, you can win by just focusing on yourself and forgetting about your teammates and everyone else. But with the Mets, he didn't have them really playing as a unit, Mendoza. It's unfortunate, but I don't think he's a scapegoat. I think some of the blame, I agree with you, James, got to go primarily to the owner, Steve Cohen, because when you're the owner, you guys have disagreed about this, you like it, because I know you guys love picking on Jerry Jones, but when you're the owner, it is your team. You're the boss. You have every right to make that final decision. Now, let your people do their job to an extent, but once in a while, you have to make a big decision. If there's a franchise player, are you going to give them the money regardless of what your GM says? And I'm going to tell you this. If Hal Steinbrenner had listened to Brian Cashman 100%, Aaron Judge might not be a Yankee today, because on the surface, the deal didn't seem that great. And Dr. Semendinger, who we love who does our Yankee show, and Mac, their attitude was move on from Judge at that time, and what would have been and that was Brian Cashman's, I believe, his attitude. But Hal Steinbrenner said, this is a legacy player. I'm going to go over and beyond and keep him. And he signed them. And the Judge contract now, even though he's on the disabled list for the time being, is ultimately turning out to be a bargain for the Yankees.
Yeah, I agree with that. What is like 325 million or something?
360, 40 million a year.
Yeah, low, very low.
Yeah. I mean, and superstar players are getting more than that now going forward. Right. And he has like 6 years left on that contract.
Right. Yeah, I think he got a bargain. Sorry, B, go ahead.
It didn't seem that way at the time, though. It seemed expensive.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the New York Mets have a lot of things working against them. It's kind of like the Cubs. It's kind of like the Clippers. When you're playing in a city with the same, that has another team that's more successful than yours, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. Yeah, I know it's New York, and you probably have enough egos in New York to have about 3 baseball teams. But at the same time, everybody's going to focus on the Yankees. And when the Mets don't look good, it kind of makes the focus more so on them as being a bad team. You got to kind of look at and to your point, James, about the change in Philadelphia with the coach. Well, you can look at Boston Red Sox too. They changed their coach around the same time. They still stink. So it's I mean, I guess you gotta have the right guy to get the mentality of getting the baseball team together. Now, I kind of want to ask you this, Jack, because it's kind of off. It's on the same topic, but it's kind of off a little bit. If the Mets get that stuff together and they start chasing people, and obviously there's been a big talk about trade talks now, and one of those people that they want to get is Tarik Skubal. Please take him. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, these are things that could be added on to the Mets and some other players as well. Do you think they're going to make moves now that they've gotten rid of Mendoza and they have a new coach or intern coach at this point? Do you think they're going to make some moves now?
I think they will, but ultimately Steve Cohen, who has like $18 billion, is it a sound investment to get Skubal? Because Skubal's going to be a free agent. He can make the trade with Skubal based on Skubal signing a long-term contract. But it's a gamble with Skubal, with any pitcher. How's his arm going to hold up? And yeah, I definitely believe Steve Cohen's got the money and he's going to think big time. You see, I think the three of us are different from the average owner. The average owner who has all these billions, if the three of us had 18 billion apiece, we would be willing to risk losing $1 billion for our team. I think we all three would think we have all this money otherwise, but then again, how did these guys accumulate all that money? They don't think that way. They want to think soundly. And now I'm talking like a fan, and I don't like the mentality of fans. And I'm talking like one of them. You're not playing with monopoly money here. You want it to be a sound investment. It drives me crazy, like I do the show with Keith Engel. He says, sign a long-term contract. You know you're going to lose the money the last couple of years at the back end of it anyway. No, I'm thinking of the back end of it. I'm not, these 10-year contracts where like the one Juan Soto has, they're disasters at the end, the last 2-3 years. You don't know what to do with the guy, okay, at the end of that. And you're paying him a fortune of money. And you're losing all this money, and the fans are just telling you, go out, spend, spend, spend. And you're right about Skubal. I mean, tell me how many good years, Brian, that Skubal has left, where you could think he could be at least a good starting pitcher, not a great one, a good starting pitcher.
Couple, maybe 3.
That's all?
That's all. Yeah.
It's going to take an 8-year deal to sign Skubal. So you're going to have to pay an 8-year contract, and you'll probably have to pay him, if you're the Mets, that he doesn't go as a free agent, pay him about $55 million a year for 8 years. And you're gambling the last few years. If he flattens out, he's getting a fortune of money for what?
I mean, he's already, 31 or something like that now? So...
Yeah, well, Yankees, you could figure pitcher will go, you could pay him till he's age 38, 39, but the last couple of years, it's bad news. Look, the Yankees signed Garrett Cole to a 9-year contract when he was age 27 to age 36. $36 million a year. That was a chancy, but a pitcher could be top-notch at age 36 still. Sometimes you have to take a chance, like with these free agents.
Well, I think too. On top of that, I know a lot of these. I think that's the reason why you have organizations that don't win, or win as much. You have organizations that take chances on, and then you have organizations that take chances on making that big splash to win a Super Bowl. And we're talking about or World Series or anything, any sport. If you have an owner that's willing to, hey, we can win a championship. Because think about it, if a team wins a championship, how long does it take for the fans to start rumbling about, oh damn, we haven't been in championship for this many years? It's usually about 3 or 4 year span that fans start getting a little bit restless about, hey, we were in the Super Bowl 4 years ago. What's going on? We can't even get to the playoffs now. But then that's when and that's what makes a good owner, because once they can understand those kind of shifts on teams, they can say, well, we can win one right here, let it fade out a little bit, then get some more. It's kind of like how Philadelphia is operating. If you look at them, the Eagles, they win a championship or they get in the Super Bowl, they have a pretty good year, and then next year and then they get all these players, and then they get in the Super Bowl again, win the Super Bowl, and next year it's like they barely make it into the playoffs, and then the next year and they keep building, and this is what you kind of want with. And I think this is the reason that separates some owners from others, because some owners are like what you said, they have this blueprint where I want to make an investment. The team is not an investment. The team is investment if you win, because then you're going to get people getting in them seats, and that's where your money's going to come. All your revenue is going to come from. I don't understand that kind of logic that they use. Like the Fords, for instance. The Fords just like putting butts in seats. That's what they like to do, though. Like, for instance, Barry Sanders, he brought people to the Silverdome all the time. because he was an extraordinary player. But what did really the Lions achieve in that amount of time? They got a couple playoff games. They got 1 year where they went to the NFC conference. They didn't do anything else, but people were still coming to them games because they had Barry Sanders. That's great marketing strategy. Same thing with Calvin Johnson and Matt Stafford. Those are guys that brought the Lions, people that come to Lions games. But as a whole, there's nothing to show for it in the Super Bowl era because they're not taking the chances that they need to take. As far as I'm concerned, and then you got the Giants who win one like once every decade, so that's a good formula, and people still respect the Giants.
They hold their fan base, but they hold on to those Super Bowls. They don't let go of the Giants, which is the way to do it. Kudos to Giants fans.
And they actually have a very good model as well. As they if you win one every decade. Football is a lasting. People are going to still come to your games anyway because football is that popular in this country. But the fact that you win one every decade, you still keep that fan base holding on. I think this is the problem that a lot of teams have. Speaking of the Mets as well, the Mets will look good and get you like, yeah, and then they don't do anything. Then they don't win the World Series. When was the last time the Mets won a World Series, Jack?
1980.
80s. Yeah, 80s. Strawberry.
That's what I'm saying. You're not taking chances. Hey, when was the last time the Yankees? I know
the
Yankees haven't won in a while.
No, Steve Cohen signed a lot of free agents. They've made a lot of moves. It hasn't worked out under this new owner, and it's not. He's done what he can do. He signed Juan Soto. Soto picked the Mets over the Yankees, and I bet if Soto had a chance to do it over again at this moment, I don't know what's in his head. I kind of feel he would have stuck with the Yankees because there's a real buzz at Yankee Stadium. But ultimately, Soto might be happy. The Mets eventually are going to turn it around, I would think, at some point.
Yeah, well, there's got to be a turnaround at this point, I would say. I mean, when you drop your manager, I don't know if it's all roads up from here. I mean, hopefully you would think so. But yeah, they definitely need to try to make some changes here, considering they made this drastic a move at this point in the season.
Yeah, I don't want to make it as simple as it sounds either. Alignment and all that. You got to have the right coach. You got to have the right teammates. That's all got to be factored into it, regardless of the owner. All those people have to gel to make that. And once you have that, you kind of hold on to that as an owner. A good case in point with the Pistons when they had what's his name, Rick Carlisle. And they could make it to the playoffs, but they just couldn't quite get over that hump. And then they got Larry Brown and they won.
Into our next question.
Yeah. So, good for that. Because this question, that was a good question for the next segue. You're right. Good job. Good job.
I'm relieved.
Is the Boston Celtics organization being disrespectful to Jaylen Brown by shopping him in trade talks? Go ahead, Jack.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I mean, if they want to trade Jaylen Brown, go ahead and do it, okay? But keep it private. Don't embarrass him. He doesn't need to hear his names in trade talks. And if it's done privately, you could say I remember what Pat Riley said to Mark Jackson. When Pat Riley was coaching the Knicks and Mark Jackson was on the Knicks, Mark Jackson confronted in a friendly way Pat Riley, and he wanted to know what the deal is. Are you trying to trade me, this and that? And Pat Riley said, Mark, to get a great player, you got to trade a great player sometimes. I don't know. If they request you and I'm trying to improve this team, I'm going to listen to all offers. Now, that's quite different from example, the Knicks with Jalen Brunson. If Jalen Brunson saw, Leon Rose, the Knicks GM, he'd say, Jalen, are you crazy? You actually think I would trade you? Are you out of your bleeping mind? Get out of here. Of course I'm not going to trade you. I'm not even going to consider offers. Okay? And if San Antonio calls, if they give me their whole team, Wembanyama, Harper, the whole bunch, 5 for 1, I'm gonna have to sit down and I'm gonna have your dad sign off on it even. For example, that's how I would joke around with Jalen, on that. But I let him know he's not up for sale. But Jaylen Brown, it's obvious the Celtics now want to move on from him because they let it get public. Why did they let this news get public that he was offered? Why couldn't the Celtics have told the Timberwolves, look, anything we're telling you, we got to keep private. We don't want to embarrass the player. And what are the Celtics going to say to Jaylen, Brown in public? I mean, in private. Are they going to tell him, well, you and Jason Tatum can't coexist perfectly. We have to find a better combination. Because Jaylen Brown's going to say, but we won an NBA championship. Last year when Tatum was out, I carried the team. Who could you have had on the team last year who would have helped the Boston Celtics more than I did, who would have done better than I did when Tatum was out? And you want to know something? The answer would have been no one in reality. And in a couple of years before that, they won an NBA title. I just feel their whole attitude, having him, on the trading block, and now Brad Stevens saying, oh, he's a valuable part of our team. We've had good discussions. At this point, they got to trade him. I feel they got to trade him. If you're Jaylen Brown and you come back to the Celtics next year, you're telling me you want him to put team first, play team ball, team, do this for the Celtics. The Celtics wanted to kick your rear end out the door. And the only reason, if you're a Celtic next year, that they didn't do it because they couldn't pull the trigger on a deal as hard as they tried. Yeah. And I would absolutely feel disrespected if I'm Jaylen Brown and I'm a Celtic next year. Will I be a pro and play hard? Yeah, I'll play hard. But I'm not going to be as emotionally invested in the team and in the city as I was in the past. I mean, they should have kept it quiet, the Celtics. It's okay if you're trying to improve your team, and I understand Jason Tatum is off limits, and if one of the big two have to go, it's Jaylen Brown. I'm not disputing that, okay? But keep your business quiet. Keep the business quiet. They really embarrassed, I think, Jaylen Brown, the way they did business with Celtics this offseason.
The only person that embarrassed themselves is Jaylen Brown. You said, why did it go public? It's because he made it public prior to the trade talks. He went out and said, I think I'm better than the other player that's next to me. Maybe he is. Maybe he went out and scored 28.7 points a game. 6.9 rebounds and 5.1 assists in the absence of Jason Tatum. Kudos. He was second in MVP voting. He put his team second in the Eastern Conference. And when Jason Tatum came back, they imploded. They lost in the first round. And a bad one, a very bad loss. Weren't they up 3-1, I believe, and they imploded.
Yeah, yes. They blew that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Tatum was out game 7.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you were the guy when Tatum wasn't there the whole regular season. Now it's your opportunity to make you're kind of saying, and then you go out and say, this is my favorite season after you lose in the playoffs. Nobody wants to hear that. This is your favorite season. I mean, he came back and explained it a little bit, but still, you don't say anything like that. You just say, hey, we did what we could. I mean, we apologize to the fans. We're gonna come back and try to, it's hindsight 2020. It's easy to say what I'm saying now, but you got an opportunity. Don't always go live. Don't always go to social media. Even Brian Windhorst said he reports that Brown is intrigued by the thought of having his own team. So you're saying all these things. Who cares if you get exposed that you're on a trading block at this point? Because it's already been put out there that you kind of want your own team. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you showed that you can handle your own team. I can see him going to play in Charlotte if they make money for him. I'm making enough room for him to come down there. I can see him going to New Orleans. I can see him going for trades. I could see him being a guy somewhere on certain teams. But that being said, don't be mad when they try to trade you for Giannis after all this has happened and it didn't work out. Like you said, Jack, you be a pro and come back and play, but some of this is your fault too. And at the end of the day, it's a business. It's a business. Everybody on the team, except typically almost the main guy, is not. Everybody else outside of the main guy is pretty much expendable. Moving parts. It happens. It is what it is. And you see where they are right now, and you see what happened the playoffs. I think they can do better by having addition by subtraction, by trading them off, getting another player that would defer to Jason Tatum, and get rid of a heavy, because they're about to go into another apron anyway. Get rid of a heavy contract, 5-year, $285 million contract, to take them down some out of that apron and out of the luxury tax. So they won't get penalized. So they can get somebody else that can play a shooting guard. You can get a 2 somewhere else that's viable, maybe not as good as he is, but somebody that will still be sufficient enough to be able to allow this team to thrive and still be competitive and for a contender for championships going forward. But yeah, I don't think it.
You don't point this out. You're talking about him wanting his own team, this. He also said he wants to be a career Celtic. He doesn't want to be traded.
You can't have it both ways. He's talking out of both sides of his neck because what he's saying is, I want to be. What he's saying is, I want to be ahead of Jason Tatum. I don't want to play second fiddle to this guy. That's what he's saying. So he still wants to be a Celtic. That's not going to happen.
He never directly said that.
It's cryptic, Jack. It's cryptic. It's very cryptic. What he's saying that I'm look what I did. Look what I can do.
Okay, I would be good with this if the Celtics made it clear that they were going to trade, Jaylen Brown from the get-go this offseason, and they let him know that that's not disrespecting him. That's being honest with him. It's time to move on. But when you consider what he did last year with Jason Tatum was out, the Celtics were left for dead, and he made them relevant. He made them into contenders. He wouldn't let them fall. And he deserves big respect for that, for what he did, keeping the team together. That was Jaylen Brown. No one could have done a better job of keeping that team together the way he did. So let him know this. Look, Jaylen, we have to make a big deal. We have to shake the team up going forward. You're our greatest asset. You're our greatest asset. We're going to work out a deal with some team or whatever. And you want to know something? If none of the other teams wanted to make a sufficient deal, at least you could go back to Jaylen Brown and say, look, I'm going to be honest with you. We tried to work out this deal, that deal. They didn't want to make the deal. And then he could have said, well, what about me for Austin Reeves? And Brad Stevens could have said the Lakers didn't want to make that deal. So guess what, Jaylen? Screw everyone else now going forward. You'll be a Celtic from now on, perhaps, or whatever, because I'm not going to give a player your magnitude away.
You know what he's giving me? He's giving me Kobe Bryant vibes. He's giving me Kobe Bryant vibes in the early 2000s when they were winning 3 championships. Kobe Bryant wanted his own team. He didn't want to be under Shaq's shadow anymore.
They won 2 more championships after that.
They won 2 more championships, but are you going to get rid of Jason Tatum for
no.
Okay, there you go.
Sure. Listen, but again, I'm not against trading Jaylen Brown, but there's a way to do it, okay? Don't throw his name out there where everyone knows, like, oh, Jaylen Brown's going to be gone.
It's a business, Jack. It's a business at the end of the day. And like I said,
trade him at the end of the day. They got to trade him now at this point.
But he, of course, they probably are going to. But he put himself in that predicament by the comments and different things on social media that he's made. He's made it obvious and easier for the Celtic organization to do what they're doing right now. He made it easier there. If you're to be someone to say, I would say that yes, they're disrespecting him. Had he not done these things, you remain blameless, then yes, they are disrespecting him. Because I've been a good professional player on and off the court. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying I think the success that he's had has gone to his head in some regard.
Before Brian speaks, then there's the other question, if there's time to get on to, would Milwaukee have been better off taking a Celtic offer, Jaylen Brown, and 2 number 1 draft choices, especially if you could have deferred the number 1 choices a few years into the future and hoped the Celtics wouldn't be that good? Would that have been better than the deal they ultimately got from Miami?
No. I think Milwaukee got. I mean, whoever the GM, I don't know the GM's name for Milwaukee. He probably should have been fired if he took that deal over the deal that they got out of Miami, because they got a ransom. I mean, to some degree, they got a ransom. I mean, they grabbed. I mean, I'm not saying all those players they are great, but they are going to rebuild, and they're probably going to put another player in place to build around there. I mean, Jaylen Brown probably could have been that guy there, but the other deal was too good to pass up. And then you're what is it? They're in the is Milwaukee is the East, right? They're in the East, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why would you give your best asset to a team?
I'm just speculating. Let's hear.
Right. Why would you give Why would you give your best asset to a team like Boston versus Miami, where they're going to probably have harder work job to getting back to where they are? And you instantly put Boston into a contention for championship if you put him there. So it makes more sense from a business standpoint to put him in a team where they're going to have to struggle and figure things out down there in Miami.
Yeah. To the point that James made, I probably would agree with you too, Jack, that he got disrespected, but he opened his mouth. And when players open their mouth the wrong way, the teams listen. They watch. It's just like when you're on a job and you think, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but the job's like, yeah, but we see what you're doing. We see what you're doing. So it's kind of the same way. And again, at the end of the day, it is a business. And if he feels like he's being disrespected there, or he thinks he can be the lead cat on the Celtics, which is not going to happen because Tatum is the guy, regardless. I don't care how good you're playing. They already specified Tatum as the guy. So you go to another team, you start fresh, and you beat that lead guy. And if you fall flat in your face, all that stuff that you were talking when you were at Boston is going to come back and make you look bad. So that's the thing about these players. They like to talk a lot of stuff, and then when they get put in that position, what they wanted to be in, and they fall on their face, see what happens. So and again, I think that it's better mutually. I think for the apron purpose too. I think that's a big part of it. I think the Celtics need to release some cap right now for that purpose. So Jaylen Brown is put himself out there in the middle of a target squad there. So hey, let's move on from him, get some picks, or get a couple of guys, three guys that'll compensate for him. I mean, the Celtics, it's like they're right there on the cusp of doing something, being a good team to be going to championships, but they're just not. They can't get right at this point in the last couple of years. It's kind of like, And it's like, I think
the unfortunate part about them last year was no, you're right. The Knicks probably would have still beat them. Yes, but they were there. They were close with the Knicks, and then of course this year it just seemed to be going in a downward trajectory.
Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I know you're trying to take up for the player, Jack, and that's respectful. But when he doesn't take up, I mean, when he puts himself out there like that and makes himself a target, I can't say he was being disrespectful. They were being disrespectful to him because he put himself in that position. We
got a couple of minutes here. Where's Jack? What do you think a good fit for him to be? Where would a good fit, a good team for him to be?
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, what can the Celtics get in return? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I wouldn't. I think Brad Stevens is pretty level-headed. I don't think he would, and this would be a good gamble move, but I wouldn't make it if I were Brad Stevens. For someone like Jay Morant, like a big-time talent who could come in and maybe be a star with the Celtics, but then he could implode as well. Do you really want to trade someone who you consider a little bit of baggage for someone who's a lot of baggage? I mean, even the Pelicans, I love Zion Williamson. If you are willing to risk the injury factor, him staying healthy for the most part, that's enough of a talent for me to make the deal because Zion will be very good with the Celtics. He's not going to be a flop. He'll be pretty good, maybe even great. And I thought Austin Reeves just signed a big deal. Apparently, the Lakers are going to hold on to him. Okay, you got to get an impact player for Jaylen Brown. You just have to. Someone who's pretty good, who a team is ready to move on from.
Yeah. What if you trade a couple players? What about San Antonio if you put him with Wemby? Trade a couple players, a couple of big guards.
Trade? I mean, I would trade
Stephon Castle and maybe Vassell. I mean, a couple of big guards and Fox.
Who are they? For Jaylen Brown, the 2-for-1, you mean?
Yeah, maybe.
I'll consider that if I'm the Celtics. Yeah, I mean, I would consider trading Jaylen Brown even up for Dylan Harper. I would consider that if I were the Celtics. Right now, it would look bad for the Celtics.
I agree with you because you're getting younger too.
And
you're getting younger too.
And I would base it on him being a star. Well, look at the deal that Joe Dumars made, giving up an extra number 1 for Derek Queen. Is that going to pay off in the long run? Maybe it will. Derek Queen turned out to be pretty good. So he was criticized heavily. And you got to take a chance on these deals. But if it doesn't work out, man, you could set the franchise back a lot of years.
Right.
I like that San Antonio one, though. Getting Jaylen Brown there for Fox and Vassell and maybe a couple of first-round picks or one first-round pick and maybe a couple seconds or something like that.
I would make that if I were the Celtics. I'd have to have Castle in that deal.
No, that's what he said. He said, yeah, he said
Vassell. I said Vassell.
No, I'd have to have Stephon Castle, yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Well, give me Dylan Harper even up and we'll have a deal 1-for-1.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not even.
That's a veteran presence you would need on San Antonio. I think that's the thing that they're missing right now that could put them over the top. Because if they had veteran presence that was a starter on that court, they probably would have took the Knicks to 7 games. I'm just saying they didn't have.
I would trade Fox and Castle. Those 2 players. I would give those 2 players up. And I think while Castle is very good defensively, he's inconsistent offensively, and I think he's got time to grow. And those contracts, they're young. They're very young players, but not Fox. Fox would be like still a veteran presence, but I would probably put him off the bench. But would they want Fox with his contract? That's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, that will conclude the end of this show. Everybody join us next Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's been a pleasure. Everybody out there, have a great rest of your day. We will see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. on the Sunday Sports Podcast.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you, Jack.
Peace.